And we're live. Welcome, friends, to another episode of the DR and DPZ Bowman Baseball Show. We are through opening weekend. We've got a few games under our belt here going into the first full week of Major League Baseball schedule. We've got minor league baseball in action. Everything's rocking and rolling. Everything's rocking and rolling. So a lot of things happened. A lot of things have been happening. There's some teams that have some great starts. Some of the major players are kicking it into gear that you'd think. Judge is hitting a home run. Ohtani's ripping long bombs. Um, I mean, DR, is there anybody better at baseball than Shohei Ohtani right now?
I mean, like right now, you could make a case for some players just based on their starts, but no, not overall. Both aspects of pitching and hitting. So, just hopefully the Angels don't screw that up. So we'll see.
Angels. I mean, if none of you can't already tell, DR is such a huge Angels fan. Thinks highly of their management of baseball operations, of utilizing two of probably the greatest the greatest baseball players to play in their primes. They have done nothing, and we were talking before I pressed record. I'm like, are the Angels going to be good this year? I mean, they're roughing up the Mariners a little bit, but the Mariners, they
Yeah, what it
start.
was the 7-0 2 days ago, and then the Mariners won. Then they blew them out yesterday, right? 11-2.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I'm not worried
maybe,
about.
yeah, I'm
I
not worried.
I think I'll say this: it's going to go. The Mariners will give the Astros a run for the division, and the Angels and A's can battle out for the bottom of the division.
I want to say this though, and I'll say this right off the bat. Something I've been thinking about, looking at the market. Um, I I I wonder, Trout. He's been okay. But I think we might be looking at, like, if you want to compare careers, I think Trout is heading into the Ken Griffey Jr. stage of his career, where he slows down. He might have one or two more strong seasons left, maybe somewhere in there, maybe, towards the front end here, before he, gets older. I just think he slows down and becomes he's a good player, but he's not a great player. And I think for his card market, if I'm a guy who holds a lot of Trout cards, the Trout cards you want to hold on to long term, I think are going to be your first Bowman Chrome Autos, high grade. Yes, BGS 9.5, 10. I don't care if there's a 9 in there. I think you can hold on to that card. Obviously, the parallel versions of that card I think those will age well over time. I think 10 years from now, those cards are going to be cards people are going to want. I think high grade, serial numbered, like Topps Finest. Um, those are going to be the card. Maybe Bowman Sterling. Those are going to be the color refractors, or the colors, true colors. Those are going to be the cards you're going to want to hold. Update and the parallels of update, the gold and diamond, cognac, true, the red. The Walmart or the Target red. And those are cards I think long term you're going to be fine holding. I think if it's anything else, I don't know. And it's going to get I think the market's going to depreciate on him a little bit for the next 4 or 5 years. So it's going to thin out the crowd, and they're holding a lot of Trouts. So there might be an opportunity to get some of those cards too. So be mindful of people trying to move on from those cards. But what do you think of that? Do you think that that's a fair assessment, and what his market's going to look like in his cards? What are your thoughts on that?
I think his market's gonna come down a little bit, and then when the current market kind of catches up with the buyers in the sense that the amount of rookie autos and cards that are out there for these players now it's so crazy that they're making
Right.
so many cards. I mean, I see Julio Rodriguez autos left and right all over the place on Instagram, on whatnot, on all these platforms. Oh, look, we hit another auto of Julio. And I'm like, I mean, how many can we make of these guys? Like, come on. Like, at some point, it's not the rarity of these cars is they're just gonna go down, and then people are gonna kind of realize it's like the Tom Brady effect in football, when people started realizing like, wow, like his contenders rookie autos are super rare. Like that's the card to hold. And I think that's what's going to happen with guys like Mike Trout. They're going to go back and they're going to realize how much less they made of him and how many actual rookie autos he had. And I think the people are just going to, they're just going to swoop him up. And I think he's going to, he'll dip off, level off a little bit. And then towards the end of his career, when people are like kind of see the value there, they'll start swooping him up, and then he'll kind of go up before the end of his career and into the, shoe-in Hall of Fame, obviously.
Right on. What do you think of the whole BGS retracting?
I don't know. I think it was a marketing. I think they were. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think they just did it. It was around April Fools. They knew that the big show was coming around in Vegas. They knew they had all the hype. They knew that they could control the cycle. And I don't know. I think it was maybe like, hey, should we test this? Let's test this. And then they throw it out there, and then everyone goes bananas. And then they're like, oh yeah, we'll stand down. We'll stand down. So I don't know. I liked it. Everyone was hating on it, but I was like, I kind of like it. It's just different. So, yeah.
Do you think, I maintain this, I wondered, and I put a post up, a story that probably nobody looked at because I'm not that big of a deal, but I did think it. I thought that I feel like now that the cat's out of the bag, it's almost like you can't really put it back. Not meaning BGS is going to move forward and start grading in a certain way, and there's going to be a Gem Mint 10 now, but there has been a huge contingency of the hobby that don't recognize a Min Gem as a true Gem Mint card from BGS. There's been a departure from that, so to speak, for a bit with all the new people coming into the hobby. I think it's always been there. I did a lot of research on blowout forums and Freedom Cardboard, all that stuff. And you can see there's always been that, okay, is it really a Gem Mint? Is it not a Gem Mint? My buddy Joey Peapod was, he thinks that the BGS 10's is sort of a gimmicky kind of thing. It's not real. It's all, you're paying for an opinion. It's not a fact with grading, right? So all of this is just an opinion. But I wonder, now you have an opinion from the grader, but then you have opinions from the hobby that goes, you know what? If you have a 9 in there and it's a subgrade, it's not a true Gem Mint card. So it doesn't hold up. And the market sort of tells you that when you look at BGS 9.5s, whether they're gem. But here's the thing, whether there is some discrepancy and some nuance in there between cards that have a quad 9.5s, maybe a couple 10s and two 9.5s, 110, 3 9.5s, of what they were going to say that the Gem Mint was going to be. And then you have the 3 9.5s and all the different iterations around it. But it's a min gem if there's a 9 in there, right? So I feel like that's been emboldened now. And is that going to be reflected in the market even more so? Are we going to see those cards dip in value, especially cards that have 9s? Not because you can't really read it on Card Ladder, because Card Ladder is just going to give you the number, right? It's like a PWCC eye appeal card for a high population PSA 9 or 8, but this one looks more like a 10, or this one, you know what I mean? Like those types of cards. But now you have that discrepancy between the 9s. I know I'm rambling here, but I just, there's a question in here somewhere. Do you think that that's going to have a lasting effect? And is it going to be emboldening those people that already thought Min Gem, nah, that's not a Gem Mint 10? So even if I had, like, say, I have my Trout first Bowman Chromato, it has a 9, right? Subgrade on the centering. But I felt like the centering is pretty strong. And I feel like with PSA, it had a chance to cross, but I doubt it ever would. Versus having a 9 surface, because PSA looks at surface more. You know what I mean? So is that card going to suffer versus a quad 9.5 card? Same card.
I think it just depends on the subgrade, what the subgrades are. Like some people view, if a 9 is on the edges and everything else is good, they see that card better than a card that has a 9 on the centering and everything else is good. Like there's collectors out there that they will look at those subgrades And where that 9 is, that's where they sort of value. Like they'll value a card higher if the 9 is on the edges and the surface, the corners, and the centering are all 9.5s or 10s. They'll see that card higher. But if they see like a 9 on the centering, they might go, well, like, that's a visible, that's something that you can visibly see, right? With the card, you could visibly see the centering is off, and they'll devalue that card more. I just heard this with Prism God was talking about it on his Instagram, and he was telling people like, he thinks that people should be educated more with the subgrades and what do these subgrades mean and how you should look into these cards. And basically that's why he likes BGS more, because they're at least giving you the reason for the grade. PSA, you get a PSA 9, you don't know what it is. It could be, they don't give you any background to the grade. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to affect like the news and their whole thing over that last weekend. I don't think it's going to affect any of the cards, and I think people are just going to go on and go on with the way they collect grade and buy and sell. I don't think it's going to affect it at all. I think you had some real selective outrage from people. It's like, come on, man, like you really like you're not going to sub with BGS anymore. It's like, come on, like shut up. That's not true. Okay. If BGS could have changed, they could have just kept it. They could have just kept going and been like, nope, we have all this backlash and outrage. We're going to just keep on pushing forward and we're going to do this. People are still going to grade with him. So because they're part of the only two, in my opinion, the only two grading companies that really matter. I know what people think. People talk about SGC. I'm not a big fan of SGC, but I mean, when it comes to comps and stuff. So, but I don't think it's going to affect BGS cards, or I think just people need to be more educated on the subgrades and looking at what's if you have 3 9.5s and a 9, and if the 9 is whatever subgrade that is, maybe you should be in tune on what PSA is willing to cross over to a PSA 10.
And see, that's what I always wondered. And why I mentioned the 9 on what made me why I decided to go 9 centering on that Trout card is you can look at the front of that card. The borders are they're pronounced, right? You can recognize centering, and it's a really well centered card despite the 9. But I also know, and it's classically, or it's BGS is known for being more stringent when it comes to centering. So because of that, you go, okay, if there's a place where PSA might be more lenient, it is with centering, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of off-centered PSA 10s. So I think and I've seen the same card in a BGS slab that has a 9 centering that would be a 10. But see, obviously there's a lot of nuance there. Who knows how PSA really looked at the card, but as far as like edges and corners and all of that, but surface, I think that's why I made that decision to buy that particular card. And it was at a discount too. But I still felt like the card's solid auto. Corners were sharp. There's even a 10 in there on that particular card. So which I always think is fun when there's a 10 and there's a 9. I feel like that kind of offsets, in my opinion, when it comes to the grade. Well, now you have a real 9.5. I don't think it's a 10, but it's a 9.5.
So what would you say? What if you got 3 10s and a 9? Is that a 10? It has to be, right?
I think so. I mean, doesn't it average out though? It's all about the math.
No, yeah. I was just saying, like, if you had, let's say you had the same card, same player, same whatever, and you have a card that has 3 10s and a 9, they're both 9.5 10s, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But what would you value? Like that's where people need to like really think about their value. Like if you have a card that has 3 10s and a 9, and you have a card that has 2 10s and 2 9.5s, like based on the hobby, and people see the 2 9.5s and 2 10s, they see that card as more valuable, even though this had 3 10s, because that 9, it's just the optics of people picking up the slab, and they go, this is automatic gem plus on this one, even though this one has 3 10s. even on a card with quad 9/5s, and you have this 1/9 over here. People just see that 9 and they just go, nah, I'm good. You know?
And not to overcomplicate it and throw in another wrinkle here, but modern cards are different, than say 90s inserts or 90s cards. There's condition sensitivity. Certain sets have certain like condition issues that, if that 9 was one of those condition issues, but the rest of the card is like immaculate, then it's like, wow, you got a 9 on the corners on this particular set. That the corners are always usually just terrible. They're chipped constantly. Oh wow, a 9's really good
Yeah.
comparatively
Oh, yeah. It
for
depends
that
on the
set.
year,
So
obviously.
there's
Yeah.
so much nuance. It comes down to this: you just got to buy the card. You got to know what you're buying. What's the set usually for that? For any modern card, it's really, you kind of need to just try to buy the best version of the card you could possibly get, because the quality is much better, right?
Yeah.
You see
Well,
is much better.
but if
Older
you talk
cards, it's
about
hard.
when you're talking about the scaling system and the points and the average and all the, and you go, well, the card with the 9 and the 3 10s, you're a half a point away from a pristine. But the card over here with 4.95s, let's just say just 4.95s around, you're a point and a half away from a pristine. So, but if you put them side by side, most people are going to go, well, this is a true gem. So I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take the one with the 4.95s because this one over here has a 9 in it. And that it's just like this psychological mental thing that people need to just kind of get rid of it and just kind of look at the card itself. But
okay, we'll do this. This is a problem in the hobby. If you're going to sit down and explain to someone new that's interested in entering the hobby, in this space, and you had to explain to them grading, and you had to go through all this brain damage explaining all these
yeah,
subgrades. But what about the condition sensitivity to these particular sets and this particular set, these cards? But you want to have SGC if you have these kind of cards that are vintage, and what's vintage or what's this? It gets so confusing, and so we got to be able to simplify how we explain this hobby to someone who wants to come in. Because if I want to explain this to someone without them going, I don't care anymore, after the third or fourth sentence, it needs to be simple. And this is not simple. This is complicated.
yeah,
It's fun for you and I to talk about because we geek out on it, and and even like the collectors that player collect that have been doing it for years. Yeah, we can sit here and entertain ourselves talking about this ad nauseum. But the average Joe who has 14 different things pulling at them for their attention, they're not talking about subgrades for like 20 minutes. No one cares. With that being said, let's talk about some baseball, brother. Let's
yeah.
move
Let's
on
do
from
it.
grading. That was cool. That was cool. And it matters because, grading, especially with BGS and the Bowman Chrome community, is a big deal. Most of, 3 out of my 4 first Bowman Chrome autos are all sitting at BGS 9510 holders. So talk to me about, what are you seeing so far this year? What's surprising you? What's getting you excited? What's disappointing you? I mean, it's only been a few games, but what are you thinking?
The Brewers are surprising. What are they, 4-1 or something? I think. They got Brian Anderson. I mean, we're five games in, guys.
We're
all right,
5 games in. I know we have
5
to talk
games
about
in,
stuff though.
but Brian Anderson's got like, what does he got? I'm looking at his stats right. He's got 10 RBIs, 3 jacks in 5 games. It's like 10 RBIs in 5 games is a lot. But then again, like you have guys like Will Smith for the Dodgers. Will Smith is the Dodgers' best player right now. The guy's batting in the, I think he's batting like the 4 hole for the Dodgers. It's pretty crazy for a catcher. But yeah, it's been an interesting start because the Rays are, you have the Rays are undefeated. You know, the Twins are playing well, which I didn't think that they were going to play this well out the gate. Their run differential is insane. They've only given up 6 runs in 5 games. That's
Wow.
pretty crazy for
Right.
great start. The Rays, I've put up 37 runs already.
Rays are good. Wander
That's
Franco, man.
insane. 37. They scored 37 runs in five games.
The Rays are good. The Rays are good.
Yeah. So there's some surprise. There's some things that I've just paying attention to here and there. but it's early. Um, Dodgers have scored the most runs. They're out to the most runs again. The Dodgers are going to score a lot of runs, but they're going to give up a lot of runs. Their bullpen's not that great,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, um, it's going to be interesting to see how this season and who stays healthy and um how this season shapes up. I hope. I know we're only 5 games in, but I love seeing um like these players that start hot, and you see like Brian Reynolds, you have Jordan's obviously playing well, Chapman's playing like there's just like some random players that are playing well out the gate. So I love seeing Wander playing well. I think a lot of people are writing him off. I mean, as I sit here, I mean, we have Wander year
Oh
20
yeah. Oh yeah.
2019 jumbos. The second most expensive Bowman box you can get out of all the years of Bowman. I mean, outside of Trout, second to Trout is that year.
Mm-hmm.
That's Julio Wander,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's been fun to watch the beginning. I think the hype's died down, right? That
Mm-hmm.
opening week is always crazy, and I think it's kind of cooled down. So I saw a meme the other day. It was kind of funny. It was like, how do you stay? How do people stay motivated throughout this? The baseball season. And I just like jokingly I was like, you watch the first weekend and wait for the last weekend of baseball.
Isn't that the truth? It's a lot of
So
baseball, man.
it is a
I
lot.
I don't know, man. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like a 7 p.m. baseball game. Sitting back on the couch and just relaxing after a long day and watching. It doesn't have to be, and that's why the pace isn't a problem for me, because it was representing a opportunity to sit back and relax and enjoy the game, the pace of the game. I do wonder, do you think the pitch clock is that speeding up the game? I mean, the games are not running as long. And
Mm-mm.
I mean, are you seeing the pitch clock have any? I saw Machado got ejected the other day.
Yeah.
Um, is it affecting? Is it affecting the play? Is it becoming a factor? I don't think so. So far, I feel like it's not. What
I
do you
just
think?
hope I hope they don't do that. Just keep it out of the playoffs. Just you guys they could do it in the regular season, speed it up how they want to. I think we talked about this. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. Like
Right.
maybe do it like maybe innings 1 through 7, and then the 8th and the ninth, like let the game play itself out. Don't let the umpire have too much control or power in the game and the outcome of these games. Secondly, I really hope they scale it back in the playoffs, because how, I mean, you've probably been to playoff baseball, right? The
Yeah.
atmosphere in
Absolutely.
playoff, it the slow build throughout the playoff games is like you could feel it in the stadium. And
You mean like actually going to a playoff
yes,
game?
yeah.
No, bro. I'm in Seattle, so
Okay, so
we just finally
uh
had that experience
you
last
have
year.
this I would go to the Dodger games all the time, playoff games, and
Yeah.
almost everyone they ended up losing. It was so crazy. But anyways,
Yeah.
it's like this crazy. I tell people there's nothing like a playoff baseball game, especially like a game 5, 6, or 7. Like I've been to game fives, 5, 6, and 7, like games that like close out games and things like that. And there's just this aura, and you could feel it. It's just like this slow building, like waiting for that home run, that explosion. And I don't know, like if you ever go like the Dodger games, like the first inning, nobody's sitting. Everyone's just standing. And we're just like, what are we doing? We're just standing. We're just like, we got 9 innings. What are we doing? But it's so much fun. I'm telling you right now, I've been to football playoff games. I've been to NHL playoff games. I've been to basketball playoff games and baseball. Like baseball, there's just like this just weird, like everybody's just like waiting for that moment to just erupt. They're just waiting for that home run. They're waiting for that strikeout with the bases, whatever it might be. They're just waiting for it. It's so cool. And I hope speeding up the game, I don't want them to take away from that, because playoff baseball, I mean, it's really it's something that everyone should experience, even if you're not a baseball fan. Because a lot of people that aren't baseball fans are like, oh, the game's so long, it's so boring, it's blah, blah, blah. But it's like playoff, every pitch, you're just on the edge of your seat. You're on the edge, you're waiting for that. Just like you just want to explode, especially in a home game. Home games they're nuts.
It's the best. It's the best
Yeah.
feeling. What are your thoughts on Anthony Rendon? And what are your with fan interaction like that? I mean, he went after a fan in Oakland and grabbed him by his jersey,
Yeah.
almost swung. I mean, he swung at him. I don't know if he
He
was trying to
did.
hit him
He
or he
he
just
did swing at him. The guy like went like this, right? I remember he was like,
right, right. I mean,
um,
what are your thoughts on that? And I mean,
I
I'll
mean,
give you. What do you think?
this is hard, man, because playing I played in some even in college and even in high school, we played in some hostile situations where you have parents from the other team saying just some wild stuff to us as players. And I remember in high school when the parents were getting into it with each other, and they're telling us, they're telling us to be quiet, but they're yelling at the other parents. And I, I don't know. I feel like he should be able to say something back to a fan. I don't like the grabbing of a fan. Like that's one thing. Like I don't, unless it was something like really crazy said or was thrown at him. Um, but everyone's human, and he could have. You never know what he could be going through that day if he's struggling with something personally within his family, and that just sets something. Someone says something to him, and it just sets him off. Who knows? I don't. I think if you're a fan and you say some wild stuff and a player acts on it, like that's on you, man.
That's
You're
right.
the you push this guy's buttons, and you if this guy decides to jump in the stands, it's like that's all. Hey, man, that's on you. So
That's
I remember. I'll tell a quick story. Carlos Quentin used to play for the Padres back in the day. I was at a Dodger Padre game in San Diego wearing all my Dodger gear, and I'm drinking and I'm screaming at the players. And he was playing left field, and we were in the left field stands. And I kept yelling at him, "Hey, Carlos, don't you wish your last name was Gomez?" Because Carlos Gomez at the time for the Brewers was killing it. He was having a great year.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was just peppering him every time. And every now and then he'd give me this look. And I remember my buddy at the time was like, dude, you need to just stop, man. Stop. You're getting to him. Well, this was the game. Like 2 innings later, he gets hit by Zach Greinke, charges the mound and hits Zach Greinke. And that's when Zach Greinke broke his collarbone, and he missed the rest of the season. And now I'm just thinking back, like my buddies would be like, "Do you remember that? You pissed off Carlos Quentin so bad that when he got hit, he charged the." I was like, it wasn't me, but I just got that feeling from him, like, dude, say another thing, say one more thing, and I'm coming up there.
Yeah.
So I think what I like it. I don't think you need to swing at a fan, but hey, man, if you're walking by and the fans are right there and someone says something, you should say something. Who cares?
I feel like in this day and age, this is important to hear. This day and age, with all the mental issues, people struggles, people are going through mentally. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care if you're a professional athlete. I don't care if you're a movie star or a musician. The lines are becoming more and more blurred, and I think people feel because of the ability to say whatever they want on the internet and get away with it. They're becoming more calloused, and so they feel like it's okay to say all these different things in person because you feel like you're protected, or if someone were to come after you, now they're going to be facing a lawsuit because you're going to sue them. That's a dangerous place to be. And I think that it's fully justified for someone if they want to act on that, and you're being ridiculous and you're within earshot and you won't stop and you keep going. That's life. If you do that on the streets, you're going to catch an earful
Yeah.
or a mouthful. And that's just the way it is. I don't condone violence, but I think that you got to be careful. And some people are pretty cruel in the things that they say. And you're right, you don't know what someone's going through. With athletes on the basketball court, this happens a lot, right? You see with Russell Westbrook dealing with it. Lots of players. There's racist things being said, awful stuff. That is no place being. It just there's just no need. There's no place for it. Period. Much less being said at a sporting event. And I think a lot of these arenas and teams they're acting on it now. They're kicking these people out and they're getting rid of them, which is great. But and look at the Yankees last year with the Miles Straw and the Cleveland Guardians and all that stuff that went down with Quan and the Yankees and how they were just.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pathetic. That's pathetic to see. That's not baseball. Maybe it is baseball, but it's not the kind of baseball I like. You just don't want to see it, and I think a lot of it's people drinking. So the alcohol is just it's a dangerous thing, and it's kind of a toxic thing. So, yeah, I was surprised when I watched it. Because John Boy is always posting the cool stuff, right? He's the best follow on the freaking internet. Period. Watching his breakdowns and his posts and stuff on Insta they're memorable, and he always captures the cool stuff. So, but when I saw that, I was like, that's not a good look for Rendon. But I'm like, you know what? What was that guy saying to him? I mean, it couldn't have been the first thing he said.
No.
So,
well, anyway. He's like, oh, I didn't say that. It's like, oh yeah, you don't want to say that you said that now because the guy's got you by the jersey,
right?
So, and it's like not very smart that those guys walk right. Like that's another thing with that. I don't know how Oakland is. That's pretty close to fans for players to be walking to the locker room like right next to fans. Like you're just asking for someone to dump beer on a player, throw something at players. Like, I mean, it's like, come on.
Yeah, that's kind of close. Well, let's wrap this up with a Daddy Rip's pick to rip. You got a pick to rip for us today?
Like a product? What are we talking? What do you want? What do you want me to give you a product?
Go with a product. Let's go with a product.
Let's go with. I'm gonna go with because I said Tovar last week. 2021 Bowman Chrome, HTA or hobby. It's still pretty. It's pretty cheap, and Tovar's in there. He's on the Rockies. He's in the bigs right now. And there's some other players. Oh, you know what? I'm going to tell you one thing. Joey Weimer, guys in 2022 Bowman. When we were pulling his cards last year, everyone was laughing. Who the fuck is? Oops, sorry. Who is this guy? Right? Okay. And now he's on the bigs. He's playing for the Brewers, and he hit a home run yesterday. So, or was it today? I think it was today. Joey Weimer. Like you see his picture, and you're like, this guy's not good. There's no way this guy's good.
No way.
So yeah. So I'll say Joey Weimer. He's in 2022 Bowman.
You heard it there, folks. The pick strip. Joey Weimer, 2022 Bowman.
Yeah. Bowman. Yeah. I
think he's 2022 Bowman. Yeah. Joey Weimer doesn't look like he's very good, but he is really good.
No, his Bowman first does not look good.
His Bowman first looks terrible. Which there's always those cards are like. I will never get past some of the autographs. They just look like scribble, like a 5-year-old. I can't. Ronnie Marciano, I can't buy the card because it looks like my 5-year-old signed it for him. It just looks so bad. It's so hard for me. But anyway, there's your pick to rip. Folks, if you guys comments, questions, as usual, post them in the comment section below. Shoot DR or myself any messages, any questions you might have, anything you'd like us to talk about. And we were talking baseball, but we can always use more topics. And it's, of course, go watch go catch a Daddy Rip's rip, a break, a lot of fun. He sings, you can't miss it. Coming from a professional musician, I used to be. He's not bad. You go in there and check it out. He's got some pretty cool rips coming up. You're going to be breaking that 19.
Yeah,
2019. There you go.
Yeah, we just pulled the red Wander out of one of the boxes the other night.
Wow. Yeah. It's amazing that out of 5 cards are still out there in the wild.
I know. That's what I said. I was like, I didn't think there's no way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Go check that out, folks. It'll be a lot of fun. You'll enjoy it. Put on a baseball game, watch a break. There's nothing more American than that right now. It's baseball season, baby. It's spring. This is where people like DNR and I come alive. Makes our, fills our cup to the very top. So, again, Luca Nation Network, You can check out Cage and Andrew. They're going to be recapping stuff on the Mint and all of that. So go check that out. I'm sure there's some great episodes coming up there. Collector series. I got some pretty cool guests coming up as well on that show. Sharon with the Black Jaded Wolf and Uncaged with Cage. A lot of good stuff. A lot of good things to a lot of great content to check out here. We've got the best of the best on this network, and looking forward to having more conversations about baseball. You guys stay safe out there. Enjoy baseball. Enjoy cards. Don't spend too much money. Be smart. Don't punch fans. Peace.
With nearly 40 years as the most trusted resource for collectors, dating back to the first Beckett magazine in 1984, Beckett has been the brand that bridges generations of the hobby. We're happy to be partnering with Beckett and look forward to keeping you all updated on the big things happening at the company in 2023. Beckett. It's the name you know and the name you can trust.